My name is Claire, and I grew up in a wealthy family. We owned a large estate, a successful company, and everything you could imagine. But when my parents passed away, I thought I would inherit at least a part of it. On the day of the reading of the will, I sat in the lawyer's office with my brother and sister. The lawyer read out the will, and to my shock, everything, the estate, the company, the money, went to my siblings. All I got was a single dollar. I was humiliated, betrayed. I asked the lawyer why I was treated like this. He didn't answer. Instead, he placed a dusty old chest on the table and said, "Your parents left this for you. They said once you open it, this family will never be the same." My hands shook as I unlocked the chest. Inside were dozens of letters, documents, and a USB drive. I opened the first letter and my heart raced. It was my father's handwriting. It said, "Claire, if you are reading this, then your siblings have already taken the company and the estate. But what they don't know is that everything they have was built on a lie. The truth is inside this chest. Use it wisely." I plugged the USB drive into the lawyer's laptop, and what I saw made my blood run cold. There were secret recordings of my siblings scheming with business rivals to push me out of the company before our parents' death. They had forged papers, manipulated documents, and tricked our parents into changing the will in their favor. The lawyer looked at me and said quietly, "You can take this evidence to court. If you do, your siblings will lose everything: the company, the estate, their reputation. But once you start this fight, there's no going back." I sat there, my mind spinning. My siblings stared at me nervously. For the first time, they looked scared. I took a deep breath, holed up the evidence, and said, "You wanted me to have just $1? Fine, but now you're going to pay in every way possible." I left the lawyer's office that day with the chest clutched tightly in my arms. My siblings ran after me, trying to explain, trying to bargain. "Claire, listen, we didn't mean for you to be completely cut out," my brother started, but I turned around sharply. "You stole my future," I shouted. "You lied to Mom and Dad. You forged their trust. And now you want to negotiate?" I got into my car and drove straight home. That night, I stayed up until dawn going through every document inside the chest. There were contracts, bank statements, emails, and every single one proved that my siblings had orchestrated a takeover behind my back. They'd even paid off one of the company's accountants to rewrite the books. The next morning, I made a decision. I called the lawyer and told him, "Prepare everything. We're going to court." When my siblings got the court summons, the facade of their perfect lives started to crack. My sister called me, crying, "Claire, please, if this goes public, we'll lose everything. Our name, our company." "That's what you wanted for me," I replied coldly. The trial began 2 months later. The courtroom was packed. Reporters were everywhere. Apparently, the story of a billionaire family tearing itself apart was irresistible. I sat at my table with my lawyer, the chest placed right in front of me like a weapon. The first day, my lawyer played the audio recording where my siblings discussed cutting me out. Their voices echoed through the courtroom. "Once Claire's out of the way, we can run the company how we want. She's too soft. She'd just waste the money." I watched my siblings' faces turn pale as the judge listened. Day after day, we presented more evidence: forged documents, fake signatures, secret payments. It was undeniable. They had committed fraud. On the final day, I stood and addressed the court myself. My voice shook, but I spoke clearly. My parents trusted all of us to carry on their legacy. I loved them, and I loved my siblings. But what they did wasn't just betrayal. It was theft, not just of money, but of my place in this family. Today, I ask the court not just for my inheritance, but for justice. The verdict came a week later.
The judge ruled in my favor. My siblings were stripped of their shares in the company, fined heavily for fraud, and the estate was put back under my control. When I walked out of the courthouse, the reporters shouted my name, asking how I felt. I smiled for the first time in months and said, "They gave me $1, but now I own everything, and they had to pay for every lie." Winning the case should have felt like the end of the battle, but in truth, it was just the beginning. Now that the company and estate were legally mine, I had to step into a world I'd never fully been part of. Board meetings, business decisions, and powerful shareholders who were used to seeing my siblings in charge. Some of them didn't trust me. Some even whispered that I only won because of the scandal. I knew I had to prove myself. The first thing I did was fire everyone involved in the conspiracy. The accountant who took bribes, the managers who signed off on fake reports, all of them were gone within a week. The company was mine, and I wasn't going to let anyone treat it like their personal playground again. But my siblings didn't take their defeat quietly. One evening, as I left the office, I found my brother waiting by my car. His face was twisted with anger. "You think you've won? You think you can just erase us from the family? This isn't over, Claire." I stared at him, calm but cold. "It is over, unless you make me take you back to court. You've already lost everything once. Don't make it worse." He didn't reply. He just turned and walked away, his shoulders stiff. That night, I couldn't sleep. Part of me still loved them. We had shared the same childhood, the same parents, the same home. I remembered birthdays, holidays, summers on the estate, and now it all felt poisoned. I sat by the fireplace, holding the chest on my lap again. Deep inside were a few letters I hadn't opened yet. One of them was from my mother. Her handwriting was neat and soft. "My dearest Claire, if you are reading this, then things have gone very wrong. I want you to know that your father and I always trusted you to do what is right. Your siblings made mistakes, but they are still your family. If there is a way to protect the legacy and heal what's broken, take it." Her words hit me like a storm. Could I really forgive them? Could I ever trust them again? The next morning, I called for a family meeting at the estate. My siblings showed up, nervous and angry. "You called us here just to humiliate us again?" my sister said bitterly. "No," I said quietly. "I called you here because this is still our parents' home, and I'm giving you one last chance to do the right thing." They were shocked. "I will not give you back the company or the estate," I said firmly. "But if you agree to work honestly, under me, with full transparency, I will give you a place here again. If not, you walk away forever." The room went silent. My brother looked away, clenching his jaw. My sister had tears in her eyes. "I need time," she whispered. "You have 1 week." I replied, "After that, the gates to this house will close to you, permanently." The following week felt like the longest of my life. I threw myself into work, reviewing every department of the company, personally meeting employees, and finding more secrets my siblings had left behind. They had drained millions into fake projects, luxury vacations, and private accounts. I froze all those accounts and began repairing the damage. But in quiet moments, my mind wandered to the upcoming family meeting. Would they come back? Would they accept my terms? The day finally came. I sat in the estate's library, the chest on the table beside me, as though my parents were watching over us. The door opened. My sister was the first to step inside. She looked pale but calmer. My brother followed, his expression unreadable. "Claire, my sister began softly. "We've talked. We we don't deserve forgiveness, but we can't walk away either. This estate, this company, it's in our blood. We'll work under your rules. No lies, no schemes. Just give us a chance to make things right." I studied her face. She meant it, but my brother stayed silent, staring at the floor. "What about you?" I asked him. He finally raised his head, anger flashing in his eyes. "I can't just pretend like this is fair," he snapped. "You humiliated us, dragged us to court, destroyed everything we built." "You destroyed it yourself," I cut in sharply. "You stole from me, from our parents' trust. Don't blame me for bringing the truth to light." He clenched his fists. "I'll stay away from the company. I don't care about it anymore. But this house, I'll never give it up. You can't erase me from this family." "You've erased yourself," I said quietly. My sister grabbed his arm. "Please, don't make this worse. We can fix it." But he pulled away and stormed out, slamming the door so hard that the chest rattled on the table. The silence after he left was deafening. My sister sat down, tears spilling down her cheeks. "I can't lose both of you," she whispered. I took a deep breath. "Then help me save what's left. You'll stay, but you'll work with me. Every decision will be transparent, every expense documented. We're going to rebuild this company together in a way Mom and Dad would be proud of." For the first time, she smiled through her tears. That night, as I walked through the halls of the estate, I felt a strange mix of peace and sadness. I had gained everything my parents left behind, but the price had been high. And deep down, I knew my brother wasn't done. He might have walked away from the company, but I could feel it. He was planning something.
Weeks passed. My sister kept her word. She worked beside me every day, staying late, learning how to run the company honestly. Slowly, employees started trusting us again. Profits stabilized. For a moment, I thought maybe things were finally turning around. But then it started. First, one of our warehouses mysteriously caught fire. Luckily, no one was hurt, but the damage cost the company thousands. Then, two of our biggest clients suddenly canceled their contracts, claiming they had heard rumors about mismanagement. I knew exactly who was behind it. One night, I found a letter slid under my office door. No name, just a few words scrawled in my brother's handwriting. "You took everything. I'm taking it back." My sister was terrified. "Claire, he's out of control. He could ruin everything we've rebuilt." I nodded grimly. "Then we fight him, just like we fought him in court." The next morning, I hired a private investigator. Within days, they brought me photos of my brother meeting with a rival company CEO, the same people who had tried to buy our business years ago. He was selling them our secrets. I called an emergency board meeting and laid the photos on the table. "This is corporate sabotage," I said coldly. "If we don't stop him now, the company will collapse." My sister looked heartbroken, but nodded. "Do whatever you have to do." So I did. I filed another lawsuit, this time for corporate espionage. When my brother was served the papers, he stormed into the estate, screaming my name. "You really want war?" he shouted in the hallway. I stood at the top of the stairs, calm but firm. "You started this war the day you tried to erase me from this family. Now I'm ending it, once and for all." He glared at me, his face twisted with rage, then left without another word. The second court case was even messier than the first. My brother's lawyers tried to paint me as greedy, claiming I just wanted total control. But the evidence was clear. Emails, phone records, witness testimony.
He had been leaking confidential information to competitors. The verdict was brutal. He was banned from holding any shares or positions in the company for life and ordered to pay millions in damages. When the case was over, I saw him outside the courthouse. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for him. He looked broken, like a man who had lost everything. I said, "This didn't have to happen." He didn't reply. He just walked away into the night.
Months passed after the second trial. The company was thriving again, the estate restored to its former glory. I thought maybe, finally, I could breathe. But one rainy night, everything changed. I was in my study, reviewing company reports, when the estate's security alarm went off. My phone buzzed. It was the head of security. "Miss Claire, we have a breach at the main gate." I rushed downstairs just as the front doors burst open. My brother stood there, drenched from the rain, eyes blazing with fury. "This is still my home," he shouted. "Not anymore," I said firmly. "You lost that right when you tried to destroy everything." He stepped forward, his voice shaking. "You think you're better than me? You think Mom and Dad would have wanted this? You turned this family into a war zone." I swallowed hard, forcing myself to stay calm. "No, you did that when you betrayed us. But it's not too late. Walk away before you lose what little dignity you have left." For a moment, I thought he might attack me, but then his expression changed. He looked tired, broken. "I have nothing left, Claire," he said, his voice almost a whisper. "No money, no company, no family." "You still have a choice," I said gently. "You can start over, somewhere far away from here, or you can keep fighting until there's nothing left of you at all." He stared at me for a long time, the storm outside raging as if reflecting the war inside him. Then, without another word, he turned and walked out into the rain. I stood there in the doorway, watching him disappear down the long driveway. For the first time, I felt no anger, only sadness. The next morning, I found a letter left at the gate. It was from him. "Claire, you were right. I let my anger consume me. I can't undo what I did, but I won't fight you anymore. Take care of the company, take care of our sister, and maybe one day we can be a family again." I folded the letter and placed it inside the chest, the same chest that had started this entire war. Years later, as I walked through the estate gardens, I felt at peace. My sister was running one of the company branches. I had expanded the business more than my parents ever imagined. And my brother? Well, I heard he had moved to another city, living a quiet life. Maybe one day he would return. Maybe one day we'd sit together at this estate again. But until then, I was proud that I had protected my parents' legacy and turned that $1 they left me into a future worth more than anything money could buy.